everyone, it's Tony. I am back with another fantastic episode of Women In. Let me tell you what you're listening to. Women In is a podcast that celebrates women in all walks of life and the individuals in their lives who are lifting them up. You will hear from all kinds of cool people that are in my life day to day and share their stories to inspire others to support all the extraordinary women around them. This space is to be disruptive, forward-thinking, and change agents for humankind. It is uncensored, fun, and curiosity-driven. This is what I'm passionate about. Breaking down barriers for my kids' generation. It's equal parts about my guests and the places we came into each other's lives, whether it be the Kalamazoo Wings, Mindfulness Elevated, Tony Will Coaching, or you happen to be in my family and friends circle. My guest today is the fabulous M. Harrington. You're going to hear how we met in a moment, but it won't, once I read her bio, you'll know. But M. Harrington is a full-time freelancer in the sports and entertainment industry. She has spent the last 4 years growing her skill set working for various teams in West Michigan, including the Grand Rapids Griffins, the West Michigan Whitecaps, the Grand Rapids Gold, and the Kalamazoo Wings. Recently, she has been traveling around the country as a camera operator for DIRTVision, a live stream company that focuses on dirt car racing. I can't wait to ask about this stuff. This hockey season, she will be producing her first game for the Kalamazoo Wings, Springfield Night. It's a Simpsons-themed game that will take place on Saturday, February 13th, 2025. Hi, Em.
Hi, I'm already going to apologize because my cats are going to absolutely be involved in the podcast.
Well, they came to the right podcast because I love cats.
Okay,
So,
awesome.
I have 2 cats at home. How many do you have?
2.
And what are their names? Let's give your cats a shout out.
So the first one who's crawling into a box right now, his name is Mothman. He's a black cat. So there's him. And then I'm sure she'll come in later, but I have another cat named Katsu, who's a little tortie. She's adorable. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love it. I've got Roxanne and Randy. So, but they're not, I'm in the office right now, so they're at home. But it is so cool to have you on. I have known you, well, I'm not gonna let the cat out of the bag, haha, pun intended. So I'm gonna ask you, how did we meet?
We met through K-Wings, Kalamazoo Wings, and you were actually the presenter for my orientation.
Was I?
You were. So I was in the room and it was before you dropped rainbow ice. Instead, we got to hear, like, I've been pushing for a new ice for some time now, and it will be coming this season. We don't want to spoil anything yet. And that was my orientation, was that.
Oh, how cool. When you found out that it was rainbow ice, what did you think?
I was so ecstatic. Like, I have a lot of queer individuals in my life, including myself being queer. Mm-hmm. And it was really cool to see inclusivity in a sport that is actually, like, from the beginning of time has been probably one of the least inclusive and the hardest to break into barriers for people who are minorities, like in all realms. So hearing that was just, it was so cool. And just everything that the K-Wings has been implementing to push those barriers has been, like, completely distorted my reality because of how just, like, of how the K-Wings functions in general. Because that has been my basically expectation now for all sports. So.
Yeah, and I guess that would be a high bar. And it's interesting hearing your feedback because you do work as a freelancer. You work for several sports teams, and so what I'm hearing is that I operate things a little more differently, and by design, because I am all about diversity, equity, inclusion, because I know what it's like to be a minority in the room. Mm-hmm. So you're the first person I've had on this podcast to identify as queer. Will you talk about what that means to you, so people can learn more, because I think it's fabulous.
So I am a bisexual woman. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, part of my queerness is not adhering to gender norms as well. I personally have always thought that, the binary system, or at least what I've been learning, is that the binary system of, like, women act this way, men act this way, those are just 2 boxes of a vast spectrum where people typically fall somewhere in the middle instead of 1 or 2 extremes. Mm-hmm. So I myself am I'm a very loud and big personality, which, you know, you go back in time, that was usually not associated with femininity. And that in itself is a part of my personal queerness and also obviously my biness as well. So, because it changes how I interact with people.
Yeah, how does it change how you interact with people, out of curiosity? Because, I mean, you and I interact, and you know, I don't know, maybe you change it for me too. I hope not. But how do you interact with people? Because I'm all about learning. I'm like, teach me.
So I would say that in regards to how it changes how I personally interact with people, I'm trying to think of how the best to explain this. I guess it comes down to, and I feel that more people nowadays are exploring this realm, and that is kind of breaking through gender norms. And on top of that, kind of what roles we might internalize or push on ourselves. And kind of, you know, exploring that with, you know, how we interact with people. I think that there are sometimes, like, this is a really great, like, example, I would think. I think that there is both, you know, if you have a group of people in a room, I think there are two conversations that can go on in your head. You have a group of people and maybe there's only two women in that room. And there is this social pressure of, okay, well, do I talk to this other person who is the same gender as myself, but then we're isolating ourselves from the rest of the conversation? Or do I not engage with this person at all and just kind of, even though I want to, and kind of lessen my own, like, space in this group and this population? And I personally have tried my best to quiet those voices and do what I want to do instead, you know, and that is like reaching out to other women or including them in the conversation and being a part of those conversations and making a space and making a bigger voice for myself and maybe that individual. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Not to oversimplify it, but what it is an open-mindedness is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
And awareness.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, if I'm talking to this other woman, maybe I'm excluding a man or however they identify in this conversation. And if I open myself up to this, like, hey, come on in, let's all know each other better. And curiosity too. I love that. I think as you explained it beautifully. And so tell me, because I get asked this question quite a bit, and I don't know that I have the greatest answer, but when you talk about, you're on a podcast and you're talking about this publicly, and you're a proud woman, or proud queer woman, like, and you're loud about it, as you say. Where does that confidence come from?
That actually, I have to say, didn't probably come to the surface until maybe 2 years ago. And I've been working for the K-Wings for about 4 years now. And I think that's just from being within a supportive environment. I have and obviously you experience this as well, we work in a very male-dominated industry in both, like, sports and entertainment. Just in general, I mean, oh my gosh, I totally forgot where I was going with this.
That's okay.
But
you're courageous, like, where you
where did it come from? I'm so sorry. So we work in a predominantly male field, and I have been met with nothing but support from the male figures, the male authoritative figures in my life. Because obviously for the K-Wings, our creative director is Tim. And then over at the Grand Rapids Griffins is a gentleman named Eric Nacky. And they have both been so supportive and just pushing my goals in life. I can talk to either one of them confidently and ask, like, hey, what do you think I should do here? And the amount of support that I receive is absurd. Same with just those teams in general. The crew are absolutely wonderful. And my best friends I have met from the Kalamazoo Wings. And it wasn't until about 2 years that I really solidified those friendships. And with that came this confidence and authenticity where I wasn't questioning myself so much because I had a safe space and I had a community. And I realized that is that is a privilege that I have that not a lot of women get to experience in male-dominated industries. I have been nothing but fortunate in that regard, because that is 100% where it comes from, is those people reaching out and basically saying, like, you can do it, you can do anything, like, and like that is that is definitely something I get from Matt Johnson. I will show him something and he'll be like, no, it's perfect, it's great. And I'm like, no, I actually need critiques here. I understand you want to also be positive and supportive, but I also need you to tell me if it's bad.
Yeah. Well, Matt and Tim produce this podcast, and they are fabulous. And
they are.
Tim has worked for me on the K-Wing side for 9 years, and he is, and Matt's worked here a long time too, but yeah. Tim and I work together full time, and he is just, you are very fortunate to work for an individual that he's just so open-minded, and he's very quiet. You'll never see him on this podcast. Sorry, listeners, it's not Tim's thing, but he is just, what he's created is a space for you of psychological safety, right? And
oh, absolutely.
And that's what I do for my crew. I hope I do, because and really for the community. And Rainbow Ice is a perfect example of that. That is one of my proudest achievements here in my role, and when I get asked about it, I'm immensely proud of it for what it represents, and it's all things. It's hockey is for everyone, and because we shot a video a couple years about it where I talk about it's about it's not just LGBTQ+. That's a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's about socioeconomic, gender, religion, race. I mean, it's all areas. I want anyone to come in here and feel safe, like you're talking about, when they come to a hockey game that is known for its rough and tumble kind of sport, and bring a softness to it. So, and I love that you're feeling that internally, and you have other places to measure it at the other organizations you work for. So you brought up something, we were talking about this off air, so I think it'd be great to talk about this. Misplaced misogyny, I think.
Yeah.
I think you maybe used better phrasing than I'm using, but let's talk about that a little bit, because you and I both work with a lot of men.
Mm-hmm.
And this podcast is about, I love men, and
mm-hmm.
I mean, I always say this too, I love them so much. I mean, I've been married to 3 of them, for God's sakes. This is about, like, and I view men and women as a collaboration, not just in relationships, but we work together. It's, it's like peanut butter and jelly in a lot of things, or peas and carrots. So let's talk about this misplaced misogyny. Talk to me or the listeners about what that means to you, what you've seen in your own experiences with that.
So, it's also known as internalized misogyny, and that is a subconscious effect from the patriarchy. You're not aware of it. And it can be either you will have a negative bias towards other women, or you can also have a negative bias of yourself because you are a woman. And that is what I experienced when I first started in this industry. It was like, oh, well, anyone can do anything. Any woman can do anything, but not me. And it was for, I'd say, the first year and a half of my career, it was almost exhausting, because it was like every single thing I thought of, it was me correcting myself for my womanhood almost. So it was like, all right, well, I really like what I'm wearing right now, but this feels too feminine. I need to, wear something a little baggier. I need to downplay the feminine parts of myself. So I'd say for the first year of my career, I showed up in basically like just crew necks that I was getting from the men's section at Target.
Oh.
And I was shopping and I still shop in the men's section, but it was the fact that was where the thought was coming from. It wasn't because I wanted to, that's where that stems from now. It was, I needed to downplay my femininity, myself, so I can blend into the background as much as possible. I need to be mindful of every question I ask, of everything I say, because I myself am a representation of a minority. So I need to make sure that what I say is always intelligent and correct. And I honestly can say that probably stunted a lot of my like development in my skill set for a good year, because what I would be doing, which I would say this is still smart what I was doing, but for the wrong reasons. When I was going to like events for the first time or working for places for the first time, when everyone would leave, I would take a picture of how the camera was set up. I would take a picture of the tripod. I'd take a picture of how all the cords were like placed, because I didn't want to ask for help. I wanted to make sure that I knew exactly what I was doing the second time around. And that was simply because I didn't want to look like, oh, well, M doesn't know what she's doing because she's a woman. And that's crazy because no one else thought that except for myself about myself.
Yeah.
And I was just completely in my head about every single thing I was doing. And that was something I had to unlearn for my own self, for my own career. And the second I stopped doing that, the second I started reaching out for help, the second I opened myself up, the second I started being more authentic, I started getting more work. I started improving as like in my general like abilities as a camera operator, as a replay technician. And on top of that, I started making friends, and I started having a community, and the only thing that was holding me back was myself. It wasn't anyone else, because I was around the most incredibly supportive and encouraging people who were just like, that wasn't even in their thought. Like the first day that I shadowed at K-Wings, I just so happened to be shadowing under a guy named Mike Ryder, who's now one of my best friends. And I just remembered how he like talked about how he worked for Western, and I offhandedly said, that is so cool, I wish I could do that. And he goes, why don't you stop by the truck during football and I'll let you meet the director. Immediately, like someone was immediately incredibly supportive of me. And yet there I was, just overthinking and overanalyzing every single thing about myself. And it wasn't coming from a place of, of hard work and I want to be the best and I need to be the best. That wasn't where it was coming from. It was coming from this pressure and this worry of stereotyping. And that, I'm so happy now, because that isn't even in my head anymore. It is now coming from the other place of, I want to put on a good show. I want to collaborate and I want to push myself to, thrive in my career for the reasons that I want to now. And that's really cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
For those of you who can't see Em, she's a hand talker. And Em, just so you know, when you hit it, we could hear it.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, she's sitting on her hands now. It's all right. It's great. You're making your points. But it was beautiful. Again, what a great descriptor of what you were doing. And then how you recognized it, the awareness, and then how you've now changed into this version of you want to be, and the results that have come from that. Relationships, expanding your freelance career. And I want to talk about that as a entrepreneur, but a female entrepreneur, because you are as we've talked about, you and I are both in a male dominated spaces. How did you decide this is what you wanted to do? And where is the courage to freelance? Because this is what I call a portfolio career, where you're in sports, but you are working for a lot of different entities. And so it's not like you're 1099, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you don't know, like a year from now, maybe you're not working for all these who knows, right? There's a risk.
That is definitely, that is something I wasn't expecting to happen at all.
I'm sure it's not like you're like, this is what I'm going to do. And
no. And I kind of really did just fall into this. Because originally, like my very first job out of college, I was a videographer for a cruise ship, and that is what I was trying to do. It did not end up continuing because I was on the ship in 2020. And it was kind of wild because the cruise line decided to disband their video departments. And so I left earlier than my contract had listed me for. And about 2 weeks later, no one could leave the ship because everyone was docked and not allowed to enter into the countries anymore because of COVID.
So you left too. So you weren't stuck on the ship?
Nope, I wasn't. I left 2 weeks. I was either the last or second to last leavers date before they shut everything down. So that was insane to kind of witness and see, like, people I was working with were stuck on board. And then there was this period of time where I just really didn't know what I wanted to do, what I was going to do. And about a year or so later, I saw a job posting, the Kalamazoo Wings, and that was my first job in sports. And it really was just this, again, this insane amount of support and almost like this domino effect of that, but also luck, which is also crazy to me, because I literally had my first day at K-Wings, and then that night I was talking to Mike, and he's like, come by the truck. And a week later I was working for Western, and then my first gig where I'm running camera at Western, I run into my old professor, Wade Cutler, again, super supportive, incredible person. And he was like, hey, are you doing sports? And I had the ability to say, oh, well, I'm doing this and I'm also doing K-Wings now. And he goes, that is amazing to hear. You know what? I have a guy over at Griffins and they're looking for someone to help with the TV games. And this is literally, I've worked 2 sports games, like two like games at this point. And he just was like, if you're interested, let me know. And I was like, absolutely. Reached out, and then I ended up meeting Eric Nacky, who now crews me for, I help with the Griffins. I do the Grand Rapids Gold and the Rise with him now, which is awesome. And then sure enough, he was like, hey, I have some people who are looking for camera operators for these corporate jobs. And now I'm helping out with Firekeepers Casino, and now I'm running camera for them. And I know you've met, I think you've met Diane Yonder, right? I work for her now. And this all just started like happening within like a year. And it was just meeting the most incredibly supportive and encouraging people who just wanted to push me forward. And that was really cool. And it's really hard to not, I mean, now at least, it's really hard not to push myself because I have all of these people who only want to do that.
Yeah.
So,
how do you balance all of it?
I don't.
Schedule.
Okay. I don't.
So you feel like work-life balance is a fallacy too. I do too. But I think the industry we work in.
Yeah, I literally, I lose track of everything constantly. I work for, outside of just pure freelance, I also do wedding work, and I do real estate work as well. And then I do like real estate work as in I do the photography and videography. So I'm doing that as a freelancer. I am doing the wedding work as a freelancer. I do corporate and AV stuff, and then I do all of the stuff with sports, and I cannot seem to balance it for the life of me because it's just constant like communication and emails from people all the time, and things changing and schedules changing and call times changing, where I think that I'm open for a period of the day and now I'm not. So it's I'm still learning how to balance that for myself. It has been very helpful because both my best friend Molly Moline and my partner he has been nothing but like, hey, listen, I understand you have a million things on your plate. This definitely feels like a priority though. So maybe we sit down and we work on this for a second. And I have, like I said, I just so happen to have a community of people who help me with everything. I don't know how any person could do it alone. That's the thing. And I think there is a tendency for women to self-isolate. And it's 100% like people need to have that support in that community to be able to thrive. No person can succeed by, themselves alone. That's not how that works.
No, and community is so important. And by community, I mean the people we surround ourselves with, whether the people we work with or we choose to live with, or our family, or we choose to call family, and our friends. And so who are the women that in your life that have been influential and that have made MM?
I would say that I would like to say in my industry, because there's not a lot of us.
Yeah.
Again, Diane, she is so cool. She is such a powerful force. I don't think she even knows how much of an influence she's made on me, because she is just, she's an event manager, I believe. That's her title. I might be getting that wrong. But she knows everything going on at all the time. And that is incredible. And then I also have the opportunity to work with, she is a freelance cinematographer, I believe. Again, maybe I'm getting that title wrong. But her name is also Emily. It's Emily Cameron. And she is so cool. She actually just got her own steady rig, and she is also a freelancer. And she does a lot of like commercial work, and she has done documentaries, and and that's incredible, because she's flown out to places and done this, and that's amazing. And again, she is such a down-to-earth, authentic, wonderful person who's definitely left an impact on me, because when I showed up doing captive stuff for the first time, it was like over time we just ended up developing this like kind of just relationship of being able to talk in like a I don't know, we joke a lot, we have fun, we talk on our comms during like shows. Sometime we'll like whisper, and we just hear like the video production booth giggling in the background. Like we have so much fun, and I think that's important, is working with fun people, because it makes you want to be fun too. And it makes, I
put the headsets on too once in a while when I go up to the production booth, just to be like, just to hear what you guys are chatting about and say hi.
Yeah, it's always a lot of fun. And then my best friend, again, such a cool person. She went to school for creative writing, and she wasn't getting the work she wanted, and she wanted to work in illustration really badly. And she just graduated from MSU, and a year later she's like, nope, I'm going to go to school again. We're going to try it all over. And yeah, she restarted in Chicago just to get her illustration degree and improve her art. And just kind of, she completely like uprooted her life and just centered it around something she knew for a fact she wanted. And I think that is so cool.
I love that.
Yeah. And I'm sure everyone has brought up their mom at some point with this question.
Most people, not everyone, but most.
Most people. And my mom runs her own freelance business.
Oh, well, the apple didn't fall far.
Nope. She is a gardener. And I say she's an exterior designer, basically, because she like designs people's gardens and does all like Michigan, she likes to do a lot of like local Michigan plants in her gardens that she helps construct. And she's super cool. She also worked in the culinary industry for a period of time, which also takes a very big personality. Like, and I always tell people, like, I know I'm loud and I know I have a big personality. My parents they are huge forces of just people. Like, if I take up a room, they take up a building.
Oh,
like,
I love that though, because they're just being their authentic selves, and that's what it's all about, right? And
yeah.
and they've raised you to be the beautiful woman that you are. So tell me how you, speaking of women and women in, the name of my podcast, the reason I didn't just name, because I toyed with the idea of just interviewing women in sports, or, you know, because I could have filled a lot of podcast episodes with that, but I was like, no, I want to make it bigger. I want to make it broader. So I just decided women in ... And I was, even at that, I didn't realize, as I asked this question, and I've recorded a lot of episodes to date, but I get some amazing answers. So this isn't a way to put pressure on you, but how would you fill in these dots for you, women in? How would you describe that?
Ooh, I'm trying to think. I'm so curious. What have people said so far? Because maybe I can get, yeah.
So there's like how I initially described myself. I was a woman in sports, woman in entrepreneurship, woman in midlife. But I've also had some people say I'm a woman in weird. I'm a woman in transition. Just because of life changes, not like menopause or anything like that, but just transitioning. Those are some of the ones that come off the top of my head. So, I mean, it's like, I don't know, maybe you're a woman in queer. I don't know.
I would say, I'm a woman in community. I would say that's a big thing for myself. Yeah, especially because that's all that I can. That's the centerpiece of my last 2 years. I cannot, like, there is no amount of words or gratitude that I could possibly give to the men and women who I have met over the last 4 years, who have been so incredible. I have met some of the funniest, weirdest, most authentic, like, nerdiest people that I had no idea were going to be in my life. And I wouldn't have any of that without moving to Kalamazoo and working for the Kalamazoo Wings.
Yeah.
Like, cool. That literally, it would not, I would be on a completely different timeline. And that's just something I think of very often, especially because, like, sports was just, that wasn't even, there was nowhere in my brain. That was, I went to school for, I have a film, video, and media studies degree. And I was just kind of like, yeah, I can find something with this, because I really like movies. And now I am producing a game in February, and that's kind of wild to think about. And I
tell everyone what that means, what you mean when you say produce a game, because you and I know what it means because we work in this. But if someone's listening to this podcast, it's like, what does this mean? Tell everyone, describe it.
So when it comes to, like, the and this is really unique for the Kalamazoo Wings as well, is that in a video room, you have obviously different positions, camera, replay, etc. And then you have a technical director, and the technical director is switching the show, calling cameras and seeing what's happening on the video board. The producer is almost, in a sense, setting the flow and coordinating with the operations person of the entirety of the show. So, because the operations group is going to be with Joe setting up games, and coordinating with the public as well. And the producer is almost like the middle person of, okay, here's the operations people, this is the voice in my head from here, and then here's the production side. And kind of making sure that that communication and the show is running in the direction it's meant to go. Very and cool. That is the best way I can put that.
No, you're right. So we did a Hockey for Her game the last 2 years too, and if I recall, I think it was last season, that whole room was filled with women.
I can't remember if we did that or if we didn't do that, because sadly enough, and this is something that really, like, it sucked, is that 2 years ago when we first did Hockey is for Her, I was gonna switch. We were going to have Sammy on replay, and then we were going to have Mads doing the RoboCams, because that's kind of that we can operate a production, the back room like that. And then I got COVID.
Oh, I was gonna say, what happened? You got COVID.
And then I got COVID, and then our Sammy also got sick. So I think what ended up happening is that the women we had on our crew didn't show up to the first Hockey for Her game because we were all sick.
Well, we rebranded, as you know, to Empower Her.
Yes.
So maybe we can get all the ladies in the room together for that game.
That would be really, really cool, especially because that's something that I know for a fact hasn't happened in any sport. And I'm so sorry, not any sport. I have to take that back, because I'm trying to remember. It was, I believe, a basketball game 2 or 3 years ago. Did an entirely women crewed production. So cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is really cool. I can't give you any details about it other than the fact that I looked it up. And yeah, it was a professional broadcast, all women crew. Super cool. Yes, but definitely in minor league sports, I think we'd be the first, which would be cool.
You know, I love a good first. We're always doing that. So are you a reader or podcast listener or both? And if you are, what are you reading or listening to?
Reading or listening to. So definitely I listen to like a lot of fantasy stuff. Oh. Yeah, no, I know none of it's going to be super like socially impacting. I enjoy. Yeah, so
enjoy it. That's okay.
Yeah, exactly. But I listen to a lot of James Sexton, which has absolutely changed how I have my relationships with like not only my partner but people. He is a divorce attorney who reverse engineers relationships from people in his office to kind of where it went wrong, and just kind of how you yourself can put in the effort to for your relationships. And obviously that can be put in place into any dynamic, like friendships, marriages, etc. And that has been something that has been incredible. Like it just helps with that, with the positive self-awareness you can have, you know, the difference between intention versus impact. Yeah, and just being mindful of how we treat people and what we say and how we intend to say things might not have the same impact.
So James Sexton is an author?
Yes, he's a he is an author, but primarily he was a divorce attorney who now does a lot of podcasts, and he's written 2 novels. And I've listened to so many of his podcasts and also read, I'm currently reading one of his books, but I've read the other. Mm-hmm. And I love how he speaks. So.
What's the name of his podcast?
He's always a guest on podcasts. So he's appeared on a lot of them. He's always kind of the center guest of things.
Got it.
Yes.
I'll have to check that out. It sounds like it's stuff that I'm interested in.
Oh, it's fantastic. And I also, I'm trying to think if there's anything else, but I do listen to a lot of fantasy based things, which I can talk about stuff about fantasy forever because I love it, and this is always something that my partner and I talk about. I need fantasy with strong women characters. Because a lot of the time, like, there's so much misogyny in fantasy, and you're telling me that in a fantastical world where there is magic and unbelievable things, this still exists?
Yeah.
And that is just, it blows my mind that is a thing. My partner and I, like, we both are huge fantasy fanatics. We just watched Game of Thrones. The Witcher, in my opinion, has definitely been one of the best representations of women in fantasy. That has been, without a doubt, there's still problems in it, but that is, without a doubt, probably the closest I have personally seen, like, a powerful female character who is definitely, like, is going after the things that they want.
Yeah.
Which I love. And then I also listened to I think I'm on book 11 of He Who Fights with Monsters, which is a fantasy audio novel. Also incredible. I mean, not an audio novel. I just listened to the audio version because, I mean, I'm in the car a lot, so.
I was just say, you're driving all over West Michigan.
Yeah, driving all over West Michigan, driving all over the country. Yeah. So that is.
The Dirt TV, talk about that. How did you end up in that?
Again, it is such a ridiculous, like, little seed of luck. About a year ago in August, a friend of mine was recommended me to work for DIRTVision, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll go and do it. So I get in my car and I drive down to Southern Illinois. I do a show, and then I leave. And I hear nothing from these people at all. And then in December, I get a random email that's like, hey, we were wondering if you would want to come back for this full season. And they sent me every date because our producer of this show, of this series, requested you.
Oh, wow.
And that is just that, yeah. And it was one person who doesn't even work for DIRTVision anymore. And that one person ended up with me working for a full season of going, like, to different states, Oklahoma, Nebraska, North Carolina, Missouri, bunch more. And I was just, it's all because of that one incident. And now, our season just ended about a week ago, 2 weeks ago. And sure enough, from the producer, I get a lovely little message. We really hope to have you back for next season. And that is super, super cool because at least as of right now, I was always the only woman who was running camera, who was in the production side of the show, the on-site production side of the show. The only other time that I've met other women have been two sideline reporters, or they're called infield reporters, because we are in the dirt track, actually. So that's the position that I run for camera. Is I go down onto the dirt track in the center of everything, and I help with interviewing drivers, and if there's any crashes or if there's any anything that needs to be filmed that is within the track.
Very cool.
Yes.
You're just really, like, a testament to, like I said earlier, like, just this open growth mindset, letting life take you where you're supposed to be, and not forcing it, right? And just trusting your instinct and your gut and your own talents, and you piece together this beautiful career, and you're, like, breaking barriers while you're doing it.
And that's something that I just, like I said, 4 years ago, I would have never thought that this would be what I'm doing, and the knowledge that I have now in both, like, of both sports, of, like, of people, of, like, just in general, like, audiovisual knowledge. I had none of this 4 years ago, and now I can tell you that a dirt track is different every single night based on the humidity in the air. And that's something I would never been, maybe I learned that like 2 or 3 months ago.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like, I mean, that makes sense, because when I think about the ice, it's the same thing, right? The humidity, any type of temperature shift makes a huge adjustment. I think of people, dirt tracks are ice rinks in Florida, and how, not because of the hurricane recently or the hurricanes recently have gone through there, but the humidity and how to manage all that. It is not easy.
No.
It's just the cool things that we're learning because we work in such a a really cool, what I call sexy career.
Yeah, it's really cool. And it's just, I'd say very recently, I kind of realized that we as people, I think that there's this push and this mentality that like in your 20s, that's your time to learn and your time to grow. And that eventually, like, to me, that sounds like eventually you just kind of like plateau then. Mm-hmm. I have realized that it's just constantly a steady incline, that growth never stops.
Yeah, especially if you're, in my opinion, I don't like to say there's a right or a wrong way to do life, but if you're on the right track, you're constantly growing because you're challenging yourself.
Yeah, and you're learning new things, especially in fields where, and I don't know any field that's stagnant. That's the thing. There is new there are new ways to do things. There is new tech constantly being implemented. There are adjustments to rules in our sports industry that are always changing as well. Like that we have to either accommodate, learn, or work around. Like there is a never ending growth in any field, I would say. And I feel like there is this pressure that, you're going to figure out who you are. You're going to figure out everything. And one day it's just, you're going to be at this, say you have say you have a little video game bar above your head. And one day you're going to hit 100. But that bar never stops growing. It's just, you're never going to hit 100. You're never going to have a full anything, because you're always going to be growing. You're always going to be learning. And that's what I think makes that is what makes great people, is the people who continue to learn. And I am very fortunate to be around with people who are constantly learning and put themselves out to dabble in a bunch of different areas instead of just being one thing.
Yeah, that is, and that's what you're doing. I'm so glad you're on the podcast. So as we wrap up, where can people find you if they want to connect with you?
If they want to connect with me, I guess they could reach out and email me, because I don't have a lot of social media. So
it's okay. Or they can come to me and then I'll get to her.
Perfect. There we go. Yeah.
Come to me and I'll get you to M, because I have some people that are just go to Tony and I'll connect you. But
that works out perfectly.
It's been such an honor to have you on and learn more about you. And that's one of the many reasons why I love doing this. And you're just a great example of women doing badass things. So thanks for being part of the K-Wings crew, and keep doing what you're doing and breaking down barriers for women and behind the camera.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. And if you guys are looking to connect with me, you can find me at kwings.com, TonyWillCoaching.com, mindfulnesselevated.com. I'm also on LinkedIn and Facebook at Tony Lentini Will, and I'm on Instagram at I'm Tony Will. And until next time, thanks all.